This is a summary review of the message that was taught on Sunday, December the 3rd. So if you missed that service, this is a review of that. Or you might be watching just to review what was taught Sunday, December the 3rd. What we talked about is how all of us as individuals have a certain amount of resources financially, time, energy, capabilities, and those kind of things. And we can use those resources to benefit others and to strengthen others. But it only goes as far as our resources carry us. But if we begin to leverage our resources with other people and coordinate efforts and put our resources together as a larger group of people, then we're able to achieve so much more as a group than we ever could as an individual. And so we want to move in the direction of working together and leveraging our abilities together to achieve greater things. Now, in order to do that, however, and this is focused particularly on how to achieve creating a thriving, healthy, flourishing church that has an impact on our community and on the lives of those around us. And if we're going to achieve those big things, we're going to need to embrace certain ideas. And one of those ideas is the building process. That we have to understand that there's a process to building a church, and part of that process is dependent upon finances. I am the pastor of the church at Bethel Assembly of God, and I do that vocationally. So I receive my income from that, and the reason I receive my income from that is that allows me to use not only volunteer time, but my entire working time devoted towards the oversight and the functioning of and the leading of the church. And if I did not have that time space, then I would be limited on what I'd be able to do, and the church would be limited on what it would be capable of doing. And so we need finances to take care of staffing the church. We also need finances to cover things like the management of the facilities, the building, the maintenance and repair of that, the payment of utilities, and the internet service that provides the streaming. All of those things take resources, paying for different ministry things like curriculum and for children's ministry, some materials for the worship team, and some various subscriptions in that direction, as well as food and printed materials for different events and outreaches and things of that nature. So it costs money to run a church because of those type of expenses. The problem is those aren't things that are exciting. People don't get excited about paying an electric bill. They don't get excited about paying a staff's salary. They don't get all excited about paying for equipment or for a plumber bill. What people get excited about contributing to is some great benevolent cause. It really helped some family out or some kind of impact on the community. That's what people love paying for. The problem is that's not how the finances work. Think of it this way. In our own individual lives, and this is just a summary, so any references and the Bible references and the quotations are in the whole of the actual message that was delivered. This is just a summary, so you'd have to look there for the references. But that in our own personal lives, when we begin to see our income decrease or expenses increase, and we're limited on resources, the first things we make sure to be able to take care of is we make sure we can pay our mortgage. We make sure we can pay our utilities, and we can put food on the table. Those are things we pay for first. We don't go out and take a vacation, though that's more exciting. We don't buy our friends some gifts, though that might be, something we'd love to be able to do. We don't buy another car or new clothes. And people who behave financially irresponsible might do those things, but someone who's going to be financially stable is not going to do that. They're going to make sure they take care of the important things. And as a church, that's how this works. When people give, and I hope that you are giving financially to the church, when people give, then the first thing we take care of is the staffing of the church so that we can make sure we have the manpower to achieve what needs to be done for the church to grow, and at least to provide the stability that is needed, the consistency. So first we take care of staffing, and then if we have more money, then we begin to take care of the upkeep of the building and provide some ministry materials. And if we have more money, then we will take care of improvements to the facility and And then if we have more money, we'll take care of. That's when we'll start getting into maybe some benevolent needs and doing some impact to the community type things. But we have to have the resources to take care of the essential things before we can move into those more glorious things, but not more non-essential categories. And so what I'm asking is for you to be understanding and patient with that kind of process of knowing that if you're giving and you're not seeing some of the more exciting things you'd like to see, just know that you're the reason why we're able to maintain the stable, the essential things. And that's what you're helping to create. And the more you're willing to give and more that different people are willing to give financially, the more we're going to be capable of doing the bigger things down the road. And we've done some of those things, but and also the quality of those things. We can only hire a certain amount of staff because of how much resources we have. We could, if we had more resources, we could hire staff that could get things to start happening with youth and children's ministry, for example. Then, as far as the building is concerned, there might be building projects that you'd love to see happen to improve the facilities, but we're not going to do that if we don't have the resources. We have to take care of, like I said, staffing and other essential bills like utilities and those kind of things first. And so the more we build towards that's the process of building. Same is true with service. The growth process is dependent upon, the building process is depending upon other people contributing their time. I only have 24 hours in a day like you. I only have 7 days in a week like you. And so there's only so much that I can achieve. And people have to remember, like, whenever you went out to eat when you were single, it only cost so much because there was only one person eating. But once you got married and you have 4 children, now you have to multiply that by 6 every time. So think of it that way. If we have 40 adults, and that's lowballing it, but if we have 40 adults, and I spend an hour a week with each person, that's 40 hours a week right there. That means there's no sermon prep, there's no administrative things, there's no ministry oversight. It's just spending time with people. And that, not that that's a bad thing. I love spending time with people, but the more I spend time in one area, the more I cannot spend time in other areas. And the primary focus that I should be dedicated towards is developing the theology of the church and being able to teach us how to follow Christ and equip people to be leaders and to achieve the work of the ministry. Those are things that I should be predominantly focused on. Reference Ephesians 4, reference Acts chapter 6. But if people aren't stepping up to the plate, I'm the pastor, those things fall on me. And so we can only achieve what we have the service power to do. So just know that we will do more as people step up to the plate and as people place less expectations that maybe aren't reasonable. In the service, I gave kind of a summary of what my typical schedule looks like and what I do tend to take my time on doing. Also, time development, just know that all of us are flawed and all of us are growing, and myself included. And so maybe I wasn't as good of a leader when I first came, but there's learning and development there, and that takes time for that to happen. So these are things to consider. So if I'm going to be a part of something bigger, I have to learn to be patient and understanding of that whole process. But I also have to participate in this process, and in particular, we were focusing on being a financial contributor. And the reason why we do that is, one, I hope that you are receiving impact by the teaching that's provided at Bethel Assembly of God. And if you're receiving a service, it takes resources to make that happen. And it is only reasonable to contribute because you are on the receiving end of that. And that's something that you see in 1 Corinthians 9 and 1 Timothy chapter 5. But also we would contribute even if we're not receiving because of what God has done in our lives. God has been faithful to us, and we, by all means, owe him a debt of gratitude. And he calls us to contribute to the ministry of the church financially And we do that out of our faithfulness to God. So even if we don't feel like we're receiving what we deserve to receive out of the church, we're not only doing it for that reason, we're doing it because of our faithfulness to the Lord. Thirdly, we do it because that's what causes the subsidy to come to us from God. God speaks in terms, in Malachi 3 and Philippians 4, he speaks in terms of that idea that he will provide all of our needs. He provides all of our needs for those who are financially contributing to the work of the ministry, or to those who are tithing. Not that he doesn't take care of needs of people that don't contribute, but God is certainly generous with those who are generous. We see that throughout Scripture. And some of our ability to take care of ourselves is as a result of being charitable and God supplying that ability. So I'd encourage you to see the service as far as a summary of the Old to New Testament concept of tithing. But lastly, what we need to embrace is a group effort. There are going to be times that there are people that can't afford to contribute, or just choose because they're not in that space spiritually to be willing to contribute financially. But we don't want to hold back ministry because of that. Paul talks about that in 1 Corinthians 9, people get confused with this. They think that he was never operating in ministry vocationally by saying he wants to offer the gospel free of charge. But what he was really saying was, in this context, with this group of people, we ministered with no expectation of financial contribution or compensation. But he said that and was able to say that. Now, there were times he works as a tent maker, but we see in Philippians 4 and in 1 Corinthians 16, we see this idea. Paul says that he was able to do work in Thessalonica because of what the Philippians provided financially. And so there's this sharing of the load, that sometimes we cannot seek financial compensation out of a group of people, and the reason, but that costs money to provide that. Where does that money come from? From people who are paying for those services for somebody else. And so when you decide whether or not you should give, there's a number of things to consider. It's, how is this, am I being impacted? Am I receiving some kind of service from this ministry at this church? Yes. Well, then I should financially contribute. No, I'm not. Well, God has done things. Has God done things in my life? Yes. Well, then I should be faithful to support what he's called me to support. If for some reason we can say that we're not receiving from the Lord, I don't think we can say that. But another reason would be, maybe I'm not directly receiving, but I want to make sure that I'm supplying this service to other people. And so I give financially. So when you give, I pray that you consider that you consider all, and when you're looking for grand expectations, consider that at the end of the day, staffing still needs their salary supplied. The utilities still need to be paid. It's just a part of what it is. The plumber and the contractor needs paid. It's just reality. And I hope that you will be understanding to that and would be willing to help us to build the church. And the more we do this together, I think we'll get to those more fun, exciting, glorious things. So I hope that you're with us. God bless.